Good evening and welcome to the 3rd Legislative District Telephone Town Hall. Tonight, you'll be hearing from your local lawmakers, Senator Marcus Riccelli, Representative Timm Ormsby, and Representative Natasha Hill. Press 0 on your phone right now or any time during this event to get connected with a volunteer and ask your question. My name is Megan and I'll be your moderator tonight. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to repeat that just for those who are joining us, kind of trickling in. Just a good evening to everybody who's participating tonight, and welcome to the 3rd Legislative District Telephone Town Hall. Tonight, you'll be hearing from your local lawmakers, Senator Marcus Riccelli, Representative Timm Ormsby, and Representative Natasha Hill. Press 0 on your phone right now or any time during this event to get connected with a volunteer and ask your question. Again, my name is Megan, and I'll be your moderator tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. And that was press 0 on your phone at any point to take part in this dialogue. To get started now, I'll open it up for some brief opening remarks from Senator Riccelli. Senator Riccelli, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you to everybody taking some time tonight to engage in our democratic process. A robust democracy can only exist with an active and engaged citizenry. Thank you for doing your part. I'm State Senator Marcus Riccelli. I serve on the Healthcare Committee, the State Government Committee, the Ways and Means Committee, and the Rules Committee. I serve as our State Senate Democrat Majority Floor Leader. And our focus this short session remains the same: helping Washingtonians afford basic needs, passing a balanced budget, a sustainable budget, and protecting our state's values from the chaos coming from the other Washington. So I look forward to a robust discussion, and I'm very honored to be here with my seatmates and our team in the 3rd District that's working to deliver for Spokane.
Hi, Representative Natasha Hill here. Also excited to kick this off, our first town hall of our short session, which is moving very fast. I sit on our House Housing Committee, our Early Learning Human Service Committee, as well as Capital Budget. I'm also excited to be here with seatmates. I've got a Spokane focus and just a few bills that I'm trying to push forward. Those include land banking, which came from Spokane Low Income Housing Consortium and Spokane Regional Land Bank, as well as our waste to energy plant, which is definitely a standalone unicorn that we want to make sure gets treated as such. So just one of those Spokane specials, and happy to be here representing for us in the 3rd.
Hi, this is Timm Ormsby, one of your state representatives from the 3rd Legislative District. Thrilled to be here with my seatmates, Senator Riccelli and Representative Hill. We work as a team, act as a team, and are always conspiring to do better for Spokane in everything we do. I am the chair of the Appropriations Committee, so that is the state's checkbook or debit card, so to speak. That is the only committee I sit on because it takes up an enormous amount of time. Again, just thrilled to be here. Want to thank you for taking the time to join us and be informed. In past experiences, I will just say I've been very impressed with the depth of knowledge of our constituents and the insightful questions they ask, so we're looking forward to hearing from you on those.
Great. Thank you all so much. Just as a reminder, you're on a live telephone town hall event with your 3rd Legislative District lawmakers. And you can press 0 at any point during during tonight's call to get in the queue to ask a question. To give people a little bit of time to join that queue and ask their questions, I'm going to open up by asking each of you to speak a little bit about a bill that you're particularly excited about this session. Let's start with Senator Riccelli.
Well, thank you so much. One bill I'm particularly excited about is because of the high need in our area, and that's trying to move forward Maddie's Place, which deals with our substance-exposed newborns, forward to a sustainable budgeting path. Maddie's Place really works hard to have newborns on a better path and try to get the parent into recovery and work a dyad model that will help all folks thrive. And so we've put millions of dollars over the last few years into Maddie's Place. It's the city has been involved, the county's been involved, and the people there that are doing great work. And so I'm hoping that we can move them from a model that is kind of based on year-to-year funding and the generosity of donors and a patchwork model to a sustainable model that will help a program that's working to put newborns and their parents on a stronger foot. So that's a bill I'm excited about.
This is Representative Hill. I am really excited, as I mentioned, a land banking bill that I've got to work on with nonprofit groups from Spokane. This has been something that I think most of the folks have been really excited about in our housing committee, and we moved along to finance today. The goal of this is in order to get land that folks are just not wanting to get ready to help build more affordable housing. We know we're dealing with a housing crisis and we're not quite on track to meet our goals in terms of how many units we need. So this is just one tool, one piece of that puzzle to make sure that we can make it more affordable. This is going to authorize land banks like the Spokane Regional Land Bank in Spokane. It's going to provide some tax incentives to lower the cost so that they can acquire both homes and help build affordable rental properties. So again, want to give credit to our region for doing things that create a model statewide.
Yeah, and I just want to thank you, Megan, for moderating for us tonight. Really appreciate all your hard work that you do on behalf of the members. I'm working on a bill that is a finance-related bill that would create an option for Spokane to host a data center. And there are a lot of issues that people have with data centers. The reason I like this is because it's such a sustainable model. It uses wastewater, not potable drinking water from the aquifer, to cool the data center, and will send most of that back. Will send most of that wastewater back into the waste stream after it's done, and the 25% that will remain there will be used to extract through their electrolysis process. And I'm no scientist, but in order to create hydrogen energy, so it doesn't use water and doesn't have the emissions problems elsewhere, and also creates hydrogen, which is a super clean fuel that Washington State is kind of the point of the spear on innovation in this area. So excited to bring that opportunity to Spokane for our workforce. There will be a lot of construction and permanent jobs after it's completed.
Great. Thank you all so much. Just a reminder, you're on a live telephone town hall event with your 3rd Legislative District lawmakers. And you can press 0 on your phone right now or anytime during this event to get connected with a volunteer and ask your question. That's press 0 on your phone right now or anytime during the event to ask a question. We're now going to go to our first live question from Eva. Eva has a question about the Domestic Workers Bill of Rights and Farm Workers Bill of Rights. Eva, you should now be live.
Hi, my question is, I was wondering if you are going to support the farm workers, the Domestic Workers Bill of Rights and farm workers organizing bills as important steps forward for expanding workers' rights for workers who are currently excluded from basic protections.
I'll kick it off, Eva. This is Timm Ormsby, and yes, these are priorities for the House Democratic Caucus, both for protection for farm workers and domestic workers. And Representative Hill and I have a mutual friend and member, Representative Breonna Thomas, that is spearheading the domestic workers bill and has found really creative ways to fund it and to get those protections for folks, for those domestic workers and farm workers. Anytime we have the opportunity to provide strength to our farm worker community, we've always seized the opportunity to do that, and this year will be no exception.
And I'll say, this is Rep. Hill. My short answer is I'm a yes on both.
This is Senator Riccelli. I'm a yes. I do think if some of our tree fruit folks and other folks have things, the legislative process exists for them to bring those concerns, see how they can be addressed. It has not come before the Senate yet, still in the House, but my short answer is yes. And but we're always interested in hearing input, and we'll look at the bill when it comes to the Senate.
Immediately prior, this is Timm Ormsby again, immediately prior to coming up to the conference room where we are holding this teletown hall, we scheduled both of those bills for hearings in the Appropriations Committee over the next couple of days. So they're in the process, and we plan on moving them.
Great. Thank you all so much. Just as a reminder, for those who are listening in, you can press 0 on your phone to ask a question. We're now going to go to a question from Mike about federal overreach. Mike, you should now be live.
Hi.
Go ahead.
So we all see what's happening in Minnesota and around the country, and actually right here at home, right? We have deployment of federal immigration enforcement operations that are remarkable for unconstitutional detentions and the deaths of both immigrants and U.S. citizens alike. I'm a caregiver. I don't feel safe. My clients don't feel safe. And I'm also a neighbor. I don't believe that anyone should have to be afraid of violence for leaving their home or even while they're sitting inside of it. So my question is, what specific legislative actions can you take to ensure that Washington is going to enact legal safeguards to protect us as healthcare workers, patients, families, and school children?
Well, this is Senator Riccelli. Thank you so much for the question. I'll start, and there's a myriad of bills in both the House and Senate chambers looking to address, but I'll speak first to one that we've already voted off the Senate floor, which has a House companion, and that's Senate Bill 5855, which prohibits law enforcement from wearing masks when interacting with the public, and it protects communities from aggressive and warrantless raids and promotes transparency and accountability and trust in law enforcement. So that's one that I think, just because we passed that last week. Another bill that I think is important that has a companion in the House is looking at how we can prohibit immigration enforcement from entering schools, daycare centers, hospitals, and other sensitive locations without a court order so that people can access essential services without fear. You know, I've heard throughout my career, especially from Eastern Washington, about our Constitution. The Fourth Amendment is something that we should stand by, and that, you know, the thin paper of the Constitution needs thick action at this time.
Thank you for that, Senator Riccelli. This is Representative Natasha Hill. And as Senator mentioned, we have quite a few House bills that are covering this. I'll mention a few that are being championed, and including with the Senate bills Senator Riccelli mentioned in the House. One of those is House Bill 2173 that prohibits law enforcement officers from wearing face coverings. So that's going through both to make sure that we get that passed. House Bill 2332 regulates information collected from license plate cameras. Those are the flock cameras we've been hearing about, or different state agencies have been providing that information either directly to ICE or indirectly, and we're starting to discover or uncover and determine ways that we can prevent that from happening, and ensuring that there is compliance with state law, as we're seeing this federal regime not honoring the Constitution, not following due process, not ensuring that there's warrants. And so these, again, are things that our Member of Color Caucus is championing, that we need to make sure we're also looking to protect our elections. So I also will throw in House Bill 1750 that was just exec out of appropriations, which is a voting right bill to ensure against dilution and abridgment. Again, we got to make sure we have free and fair elections, that is not impeded by this federal regime, and that we are protecting our democracy in addition to protecting our constituents and residents.
And I'll run quickly through a couple of other things since you asked for specific legislation. Requiring businesses to tell their employees if ICE inspections are imminent, so that they're not surprised and know that federal ICE agents are coming to their place of work. Another bill prevents law enforcement impersonation, because that is one of the unfortunate side effects of what has been going on nationally. Requiring reporting by private detention facilities and actually getting the Department of Health in there to inspect them. Those facilities are dirty. The food is bad. They're infested with vermin of all manner and types. And We have legislation stopping ICE from entering daycares, schools, colleges, and hospitals without warrants. And finally, protects legislation that protects the personal information, licensed or certified child care providers to shield them from ICE detection. And I would just add, as an aside, I had a very good meeting with management folks at the Attorney General's office. They are not actually attorneys themselves, but the Attorney General's office and the litigation, they're involved in over 50 suits to stop the many of the nasty things coming out of Washington, D.C. that impact our constitutional rights and also our state funding. And I have a high level of confidence with Attorney General Nick Brown and his staff and the work that they're doing. And we're really relying on them to be between us and constitutional chaos.
Great. Thank you all so much. So just a reminder that you're on a live telephone town hall event with your 3rd Legislative District lawmakers, and you can press 0 on your phone now or at any time during the event to get connected to a volunteer to ask your question. We're now going to go to a live question from Patricia on a specific bill, 1474. Patricia, you should now be live.
Thank you. I'm hoping to find out if there's any kind of a path forward for House Bill 1474 in order to get on the agenda and a vote out of appropriations before the cutoff on February 9th. This has to do with giving a one-time COLA to PERS 1 and TERS 1 Plan 1 retirees. I'm particularly concerned about the number of retired educators in the 3rd District who have been affected by this in the last few years by not getting a cost of living increase. As their average age at this point is 80, there's not a lot more time to help out these elderly retirees in the 3rd District. Is there any path forward at all for House Bill 1474 to get on the schedule for discussion and a potential vote out of appropriations?
Yes, thank you for the question. This is Timm Ormsby. I would just say what the status is. This was a bill that was introduced last year, and just given our budget challenges, weren't able to advance it. But it is sitting in the Rules Committee, and what that means is it's been through a policy committee, it's been through a fiscal committee, and referred to Rules. So it's 2 steps away from a floor vote. We are really turning over the couch cushion, kicking over rocks and everything to try and find the resources that are going to be required. And we think that there may very well be a path to initiate a conversation involving 1474. It is not yet determined that path. You know, we're kind of in choppy seas right now fiscally, and we need to get to clear sailing before we have an opportunity to fund 1474. But I know we're working on the pension policy area very long and hard, and we think we have some options and opportunities. We've just got to be persistent about it, and we certainly have been hearing from our public retirees about the importance of this.
Thank you so much, Rep. Ormsby. Just as a reminder, if you want to ask a question on tonight's live telephone town hall, you can press 0 on your phone right now. We're now going to go to a live question from Karen on a specific bill moving through the Senate. Karen, you should now be live.
Oh, hi there. Hi, I'm calling from Spokane, Washington, and but I'm just concerned and hopeful that SB 5828 will pass. I have a son who I'm very proud of. He's 17 and signed up for College Bound when he was in middle school and got accepted to Gonzaga Nursing School. And when they signed it, like originally, the amount that would be paid for private school was 100% of what the going rate for public school, but now I guess it's been dropped, so it's to 50%. So we're concerned, the money, it is a lot to go to Gonzaga, and I'm really hoping he and his other fellow college-bound kiddos can work through this, or that they can still go to the colleges that they're wanting to go to. So that's my concern, and I'm just really hoping that that is what you all are interested in as well, or if you have more ideas about that.
I'll start. Thank you for the question. This is Senator Marcus Riccelli. I did sign on to this bill, and I got to tell you, I've been hugely impressed, not just by the various representatives in administration coming down to help explain the issue of this, but we've had students take Olympia by storm to talk about this, and it's been impressive engagement. At this time, the bill has been scheduled for a public hearing in the Senate Ways and Means Committee on February 5th, which I sit on. I've been very sympathetic and understanding of some of the cuts that have come our way, and there's been some ideas on one of our workforce investment accounts and how it could help backfill some of these cuts. So I'm looking forward to that discussion in committee. We'll be discussing that as legislators that serve on that committee and seeing if it can garner the support to advance. But I will tell you, the engagement and information has been high on this, and that has been something we think about, and we think particularly about those students. Education is a great equalizer, and I truly believe the only way we're going to grow our economy from the middle out is if we give people opportunities to all sorts of different educational opportunities, and we don't want to hear about kids that are being restricted, particularly those that are on our college-bound scholarships and others. So appreciate it.
This is Timm Ormsby. I had the opportunity last week to meet with Gonzaga University's new president, Katia Passerini, and as Senator Riccelli mentioned, just very impressed with the independent colleges of Washington's presence here. This was a hard thing that the legislature did to reduce those awards last year. We relied on our higher education subject matter experts to find us cuts because we needed to reduce our spending tremendously in order to be able to pass and fund a budget. So we're in even more challenging times right now, but we're always looking for opportunities to provide, as Senator Riccelli said, pathways to education and careers.
Great. Thank you both so much. Just as a reminder, you're on a live telephone town hall event with your 3rd Legislative District lawmakers. And you can press 0 now if you have a question. We're now going to go to a question from, I'm not actually sure, it doesn't have a name in the system, but I believe it's a question about data centers. You should now be live. Hello?
Yeah, this is, hi everyone, this is Mike Peterson. I think I had a question, so this is probably me. And I appreciate you talked about using wastewater for data centers, but many don't do that. And so I'm just kind of wondering if the data center legislation, House Bill 2515 and Senate Bill 6171, which requires public reporting, are you going to support that transparency? I'm very concerned about our energy usage, and that data centers are going to really take away our ability to control our and replace with renewable energy. So I appreciate all the work you're doing, but I do have that additional question about data centers.
This is Representative Natasha Hill, and I share actually a lot of the concerns around data centers. This is an area that I'm getting more information on to ensure that it's not going to have the negative impacts that I've been hearing about. I think water, as you mentioned, number one, we have our aquifer, we have our single water source in Spokane. I know in terms of regionality, our region in Eastern Washington has been identified as a prime location to pop up lots of data centers. So I have shared concerns about this starting and how far it's going to go, and whether there's going to be sufficient transparency and reporting to ensure that we're not having environmental impacts that, candidly, I don't think that we're going to survive. Yeah,
thanks for the question, Mike. Good to hear from you. The both the House and Senate bills seem to be moving right along. Now we're in week 4 of a 9-week session, so stay tuned. They both seem like they have traction. And in the interest of full transparency, and I'm not sure if you joined us at the beginning of the call, but I'm actually sponsoring a bill to provide tax treatments for a Spokane-based data center that does not rely on potable water. It uses wastewater, and it also generates hydrogen, a clean burning fuel. So I think it's a closed loop system that doesn't involve excessive consumption of potable water, like from the aquifer. It's using wastewater from airway heights. And those are the kind of innovative and creative things that we need to do if we're going to have these data centers, that they're not a drain on other parts, other resources that we rely on.
Great. Thank you all so much. Just a reminder, to be put in the queue to ask your question, press 0 on your phone right now. All right. We're now going to go to a live question from Loretta. Loretta has a question on the SAVE Act. Loretta, you should now be live.
Yes, I'm wondering how I can help women who have been married and have to present a birth certificate and a marriage certificate in order to vote. A lot of women will not have access to that information easily. What can I do to help? What can I do to help people register to vote Democratic?
I think thanks for the question, Loretta. I think the best course of action is, since it's federal legislation, is contacting our 5th Congressional District Representative, Michael Baumgartner. I believe that we can count on the support of our state Senate, U.S. Senate delegation, Senator Patty Murray and Senator Maria Cantwell, to be supportive of this, as they have championed these types of equity issues in the past. And I think it being a federal issue, I would just encourage you to reach out to the federal delegation. I believe, given your interest, I think that's something that we generally do as well, to let them know how we feel about it, and certainly can express your interest in not having to have these individuals go through all this paperwork just to exercise their right to vote.
And I'll just kind of jump in as well, Representative Natasha Hill, to echo concerns about what's happening with federal legislation without consideration of how this directly impacts married folks. I will, as we talked about earlier, with making sure that we have some democracy bills that we want to make sure get passed so we have our free and fair elections. We also are really relying, on our Secretary of State, Secretary Hobbs, to continue to defend our mail-in ballots and the election processes that we have here in Washington. We don't want those to be impeded or diluted. While we know that mail-in ballots now we want to get in a lot earlier, that is still something we can count on. And I assure you that we're going to be fighting really hard to make sure that we're protecting our democracy so everybody has a fair chance to vote for the representative of their choice. And while we hope that's a Democrat, ultimately everybody gets a choice, right? And so that's where we can say, voting at every level, city, state, and federal is important, and we got elections every single year. So it's really important that we, remind our neighbors, remind our family, remind our friends, that we get the word out and we get as many people engaging in our democracy as possible.
And I'll just add, not exactly on the topic, but you asked, but more on the topic that Rep. Hill was chatting about, and that is our defending democracy. I do want to say I am sponsoring a bill, Secretary of State request, that really protects our private information, our data, from individual auditors turning that over to the federal government. So it makes those requests come through the Secretary of State and establishes penalties for those prohibitions. And for me, the unauthorized disclosure of personal information in a patchwork framework is something that we need to avoid. This means not turning over things like Social Security numbers and birth dates to the federal government unless they're going through the proper channels, like through the Secretary of State.
Great. Thank you all so much. Just as a reminder, if you would like to ask a question on tonight's live telephone town hall event, you can press 0 now. Now we're going to go to a live question from Tammy I believe on House Bill 2320 and House Bill 2321 around ghost guns and 3D printers. Tammy, you should now be live.
All righty. So, yes, my name is Tammy. I just, in the past few years, actually moved to the state of Washington, and I'm out here in Spokane right now. And this House Bill 2320 and 2321 seeks to put a lot of limitations and ban on people with 3D printers, and the language of the bill also is going to ban laser printers, CNC milling machines, lathes, and any kind of manufacturing tools. This bill this set of bills is really going to hit our economy very bad because there are a lot of small businesses in the state. I know of personally 4 who use these tools, and we have nothing to do with guns. This was just written in there as an excuse to take away our freedom of speech because our files are considered that. I just recently started a small business, and now I'm worried I'm going to have to just go ahead and leave. My life's been ruined since I moved to the state as it is. I used to work for the state, and I was just let go because of retribution, because of discrimination by men at the job that I was working for. So are you guys going to read more into that and see how bad that these may affect our economy and small businesses?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think it's a very hot topic. It's also, a relatively new technology that we're trying to grapple with regulating. I think the intention behind it is really good on the ghost guns. And there's an old saying around here: if you think you have a good idea, introduce a bill, and you'll find out exactly what's wrong with it. And I think this bill is going through that process. I think you have identified some shortcomings. And I think this whole legislative process is not written in stone. The bill is originally, is drafted, and then it goes through a hearing process. It's got to get through 14 separate and distinct, arduous gates in order to become law. And that's what puts checks and balances on flawed legislation passing into law. And I think this bill is in that situation, being amended, being changed, change the language, the text of the bill, and I have faith that by the time we see something, those issues will have been ironed out, and if they're not, then it won't come up for a vote.
Great. Thank you all so much. Just a reminder, if you'd like to ask your question, you can press 0 now to get into the queue. We're now going to go to a question on housing and homelessness, I believe from Alexis. Alexis, you should now be live.
Hello, my name's Alexis, and I was inquiring about what is being done about the housing crisis, and also what can renters do to combat rent increasing.
This is Representative Hill, and as being a member of our House Housing Committee, one of the things that I got to come in and do last year is support our rent stabilization. We know that's not the end-all, be-all in terms of making sure that we keep rents affordable. So we're back in housing this year. Some of our priorities include ensuring that we have step housing so that we have more options for folks that meet their needs, provide services, and help folks, move into more stable housing. We've been dealing with concerns around making sure that we don't have our unhoused population on the streets, creating public health and safety concerns for them, as well as the greater community. We're looking at ways to balance interests in making sure that we're not criminalizing our unhoused community while we're working to build shelter space that can make sure that we have a roof over everyone's head. And again, making sure that we're also looking at our budget. So obviously this situation we're in with having to cut things, having to delay things that we would, rather fund has a lot to do with the fact that we just don't have enough revenue coming in. As a new legislator, it's been a big focus of mine to make sure that we're looking at our tax system. And so this year we got a nice surprise in terms of having some revenue bills that were introduced that are starting to go through the process to see how we can bring in more revenue to address this housing crisis that we're in, to address the rental assistance that's still needed to keep folks in their homes. And then we're looking at the increase in evictions. So I know we've seen at the local level in Spokane efforts to bring back some of the positive things we saw after COVID for which was initially a pilot program, but it had some opportunities for housing providers and tenants to work together to see if we could keep people in their homes and reduce that load on our courts. So there's a lot of balance there. We're getting a lot of feedback and input. And so I think those are just a few of the ways in which that we're making sure that we're addressing this need and making sure our renters aren't bearing the burden of having a housing market that's in crisis.
And this is Timm Ormsby. As Representative Hill mentioned, I just want to give a shout out to the City Council that last night passed an ordinance to make sure that there are evictions from rentals don't occur until diversion opportunities are provided to them, which is kind of a local version of the rent stabilization bill that we did last year. And I think this is becoming a huge issue given the fact that private market property owners had unlimited ability to raise rents, which they did during the pandemic and immediately following, and it went unchecked. And that spurred us into passing legislation here last year to only have limited ability to increase rents. As a property owner that has renters, I know that we have not raised our rents on either one of the rental properties we have since 2016. This is not an undue burden on property owners if we regulate them. Being one, I know that's true. I think both the City of Spokane and the state are focused on this affordability issues for families and individuals.
Yeah, and this is Representative Hill. I wanted to respond again because I stumbled a little bit not having my notes in front of me on what STEP housing stands for, and I'm sure you guys get hit with acronyms just like we do, and so I don't want to assume. It is shelters, transitional housing, emergency housing, and permanent supportive housing. And so just wanted to clarify that was one of the bill I referenced from our House Housing Committee. That's one of the priorities that has been moving along.
And I'll just add, this is Senator Riccelli. Just want to add a couple things because housing is such a priority for all of us here in Olympia. For me, I have introduced a bill on housing. We call it Pavement to People Update. We're looking to try and expand some of the tax incentives that are on the books for affordable housing, for workforce and student housing. Been working with the Northeast Public Development Authority, the City of Spokane, even private developers to see if we can bring more of this housing stock online and expand it to underutilized land. So that's one thing. And then the other one, it really came from a lot of folks in Spokane, in that we have a lot of religious entities that have extra land that they're not using, and they want to develop affordable housing. We have a tax incentive on the books that doesn't allow them to access that. So we're trying to pass that bill. I have a companion in the Senate. The vehicle is Representative Saladin from the West Side, who's trying to move that bill forward. So those are a couple things. And then I got to shout out our Housing Trust Fund. We continue through the capital budget to try and stand up affordable housing throughout our state.
Great. Thank you all so much. We're about 40 minutes into tonight's live telephone town hall with your 3rd Legislative District lawmakers. We're now going to go to a live question from Eric on the budget deficit. Eric, you should now be live.
Hi there. I just had maybe a simple question for you guys. What is being done to lower our state deficits? And I know that's an issue. And then I guess follow-up question is, rather than, like, I've seen my taxes double in the last real estate taxes in the last 7 years I own a rental. and they made me get a business license. So rather than raising fees, how can we reduce government? Is there anything proposed?
Yeah, well, I'll speak to that, Eric. I spend every day looking at reduction options, and that involve life, health, and safety. So these aren't frivolous things. Just want to emphasize that the people that are accessing state programs and services are all humans that deserve some dignity, and that's what the state is trying to provide. We're trying to maintain that, but we have to pass a balanced budget that is required, and there's only two ways to do that: increase revenue or reduce expenditures. It's as simple as that. And I can tell you, we did massive budget reductions last year with some revenue increases, about 50-50. And it was a brutal exercise, I will tell you that. It's not very fulfilling when you're going in there and reducing programs that are vital to a lot of people. And those are our only two options, and we're working very hard on opportunities. And you mentioned about how you're seeing taxes and fees go up. The one thing that is being discussed widely this year is a high earners income tax. So if you make over $1 million, the first million, nothing changes for you at the state level. But after that, then a percentage portion of income above $1 million would be taxed in order to pay for that. Now, won't be able to access those resources for some time because it takes a while to start up a program at the Department of Revenue that doesn't currently exist. When it does, I think that is an equitable approach. I don't think that anyone that puts over $1 million in their pocket per year is going to have any trouble maintaining their lifestyle. And I think it's fair. There's probably 10 or 11 taxpayers in Spokane County that might fall into that category, and orders of magnitude much larger than that of people, especially in the 3rd Legislative District, that are accessing the programs and services the state offers that will be the beneficiaries of that.
This is Representative Hill. I'll just kind of add some additional numbers on that. Our House Bill 2724 just dropped, which is that millionaire tax bill, so you can take a look at that. There's a Senate companion bill 6346. And as Representative Ormsby said, you're not taxed on the first million, but after that, you get a 9.9% tax. They also, though, are not including the family-owned small business or the sale of your home. And they're also giving credits like most high earner households do their charitable contributions. So there's $50,000 for that can be deducted. There's also credit if you're paying the capital gains tax. There's credit if you're paying B&O and public utility tax. There's credit for income tax paid in another jurisdiction if you got money coming in from other places. And there's credit for your Washington income tax paid through a pass-through entity. So there's a lot of work that's been done to ensure that this is fair and something that addresses the fact that we've had, I think it's around 40% reduction in federal taxes. So the people who are seeing a tax increase have been getting tax reductions for a long time, which then leaves in a region like ours where we have a lower than median income for the state of Washington, it leaves those working families paying a much higher percentage of their income into a system that's benefiting everyone. And so what I know I get really excited about revenue because I know that the workers in Washington are working together to ensure that there is wealth in this state. And that wealth has not been spread out in a fair way. And we've allowed it, unfortunately, our state to be treated like a tax haven, like you think of like the Cayman Islands overseas. And so it's kind of been interesting to see how far behind our tax system is. And until we passed capital gains and then had voters weigh in on whether or not we should repeal it or keep it. And our voters say not only do we want to keep it, but we want to see more fairness across Washington households, because a lot of folks, get this wealth without having any real skin in the game. And there's nothing wrong with that. Folks want to pass things down and leave things to their heirs, and that's okay. But we all benefit from services and programs that are available across our state. And even when you think of something like a park and a school, if we were paying in more, we would have to do less on the levy side. We would have to do less with the other taxes. And so this millionaire tax is also going to give us an opportunity to reduce our B&O tax on small businesses, Possible reduction, I think we're looking at sales tax. We want to not just raise taxes so there's revenue that can be spread out across our state. We want to get relief to those who actually need it and who are helping grow our state and helping to build that wealth. So I'll turn it over if Senator Riccelli has any remarks, but I hope folks appreciate how excited it makes me to know that we're moving this tax system forward.
Yeah, I'll just add, I think that all of us here in Olympia are interested in scrubbing the budget and looking for ways to find efficiencies. But at the end of the day, our decisions and in tough times are to protect key essential services. And we're hearing about healthcare, I think, education, our top priorities in housing. And for me, I would add food security, something that is something that I've prioritized. And then we are looking to put our budgeting path on a more sustainable foundation. But there are things that we can do. I will tell you, I've worked in healthcare. I've chaired the committee. Looking at our large agencies, I think, is worthwhile. So for me, looking at the Healthcare Authority, looking at higher education, and to make sure that we're getting our dollars and that we're doing program evaluation is important.
Great. Thank you all so much. We are now going to go to a question that was actually submitted ahead of time by a constituent. This is a question from Larry. And Larry asks, what programs and projects are you prioritizing with CCA funds?
Yeah, thanks. This is Senator Riccelli. I think that it's important to have that connection, that nexus with the Climate Commitment Act funds. For me, some of the things that we're looking at, I think that are important are heat pumps. Can we look at folks who need access and they want to create efficiencies in their households? Are there things that we can do to prioritize energy efficiency, et cetera? I will tell you, and there's a lot of debate, but the CCA funds do specifically call out things like the Working Families Tax Credit, and I think that's something that we should look at, particularly in times when we're saying affordability is our top deal. But connecting the nexus when we can to CCA projects, I think, is important, and I look forward to a lot of conversation around that.
Yeah, great question, Larry. Timm Ormsby here. I just want to say you probably saw in the governor's budget that he would pay for the Working Families Tax Credit to the tune of about $569 million from the Climate Commitment Act. We don't particularly the legislature is not particularly enamored with that, but I think we have come up with a very good scheme about possibly doing that as the governor did in the current biennium, which lasts until June 30th, 2027, so, about 1 year and 4 months from now. But then, using that same amount that we use for this allowable use, as Senator Riccelli said, it is an allowable use of the Climate Commitment Act monies to repay that into the next biennium. And I think there is a benefit to that, because our ability to understand more about carbon and other pollutants reduction, we will have learned more in that short amount of time, and I think we'll be able to be poised to make better investments. We have to get ahead of this existential threat, and I think we were, way ahead of other states in coming up with our cap and trade plan. And while it will have diminishing resources in the future, I think we have devised a good scheme to just put it off for a short amount of time and then start back up with those carbon and other pollution reduction plans beginning July 1st, 2027.
Great. Thank you all so much. We're now going to go to a live question from Wendy on House Bill 2489. Wendy, you should now be live.
Hi, thanks all for gathering, and thanks for making yourselves available. I am calling about that House Bill 2489, and I am so concerned about the negative impacts. This is the bill that is going to basically mandate encampments across Washington state, because it's giving statewide responses to local problems. And I know you guys know I've reached out to all of you individually and in public, but you know that Spokane City Council unanimously sponsored and supported our safe and accessible spaces, we have seen dramatic drops in overdose responses. So we've gotten people who are taking services that wouldn't have before. We were getting, people into addiction, into housing. So having this broad requirement for communities, and if the devil's in the details. I understand the desire, but to have like little communities have to require, have shelter for pets and belongings and partners. They can't do that. So this is just going to basically give a green light to camping anywhere in Washington state, and it removes the ability of local control over local responses. So my question is, I'm just not understanding why this would go forward at all. I just don't understand when Spokane has been united in, returning it to a safe city and getting people services as opposed to just abandoning them to the streets. It just doesn't seem kind. So can you help me understand why this would go forward?
I'll go ahead and take that, Wendy. It's Representative Natasha Hill. This is a bill I've supported, and I definitely appreciate and have heard some of the concerns, but I've also heard a lot of support from this bill. So I think there is there is community that's united in terms of the goals to make sure that our streets are safe, both for folks who are experiencing homelessness as well as the greater community. The details are there, and I would definitely recommend folks take another look and not necessarily be persuaded by the concern about this impeding, because we've put in language to ensure that it won't impede programs like Spokane has. We've seen Spokane actually start citing unhoused folks since 2023, and that didn't lead to immediate success. What we've seen over the last few months has been the SAFE program to get people navigated, and so it's actually been navigation to treatment and services. I had an opportunity to attend one of the task force meetings where they brought in experts talking about how navigating folks to services and treatment and avoiding that penal system going through the courts, which creates additional barriers. And so this is not a local problem. It's actually happening not just across our state, but across our nation. The issue we're trying to solve with this House bill that's gotten a lot of feedback and input, is definitely a work in progress, is that we need something across the state to avoid this patchwork that is allowing cities like ours to get sued. I appreciate our voters passed a measure off the ballot wanting to limit where folks who are unhoused could be. I take issue with the term camping because I have not seen any receipts for equipment purchased by our unhoused community members for camping equipment. These are people's belongings. I would also challenge people to think about what we do when there's wildfires and we have maybe, dozens or hundreds of homes and people displaced. We don't tell them to go to jail because we don't have space for your belongings or your pets or your spouse or your family. We actually find them a place that's safe for them and for community, even if that means we put up temporary shelters in community centers, but we don't criminalize them and send them to jail. When we have folks who are unhoused and are refusing treatment and services, who are engaging in criminal activity, that's a different scenario, but that is not the scope of what we're trying to cover. My goal here is to ensure we're protecting constitutional rights, which these folks have, whether they're housed or not, and to make sure that Spokane doesn't get sued, because we just can't afford to keep wasting taxpayer dollars and sending people through a system that's much more expensive than putting those resources and funds toward the services and treatment and programs that are actually getting us the results we want. So my goal is to continue to work in partnership, but the end-all be-all is not just the electeds who send letters. It is listening to individual constituents and residents across our region.
Yeah, and this is Senator Riccelli. I will just share. I appreciate that response. At this point, I do see what the City Council passed, and I've seen a lot of value in that. And look, we're having good discussions as a 3rd District team, but at this point, I'm not inclined to support the bill. But that's the process. It's going through a lot of discussions, a lot of changes. We're getting a lot of input, and our end goal is to have our democracy work this process to make sure that Spokane's thriving. And, we're looking at all the treatment services that folks need and all the wraparound services. But, this has been a very hot issue at this point. I'm not supporting the bill as is, but we're coming here to have the kind of dialogues to try and move good public policy. And we appreciate the input on all sides of this issue.
Yeah, I want to echo the appreciation for the input. I share Representative Hill's position. The one thing that I want to say is that I want to reinforce something Representative Hill said. The key is getting people to services, getting people to navigate a Byzantine system that can be very complicated, especially if you're in a compromised position. I do not feel that this sets Spokane back, but I do think that the intention of the bill is to create a standard across the state because a lot of communities are criminalizing those folks that are unhoused, and we shouldn't have that as one of our strategies. It should be to create care systems that these people can transition into, and however we can get them there to navigate and get into care, that is the key, and that's why it's been working in Spokane, and that under this scenario continues.
Great. Thank you all so much. That's actually all the time we have for questions tonight. Thank you again for joining the conversation. We couldn't get to every question, but if you press 0 and you're in line to ask a question, please stay on the line to leave a voicemail for your 3rd District lawmakers, Senator Riccelli, Representative Ormsby, and Representative Hill. I'm now going to turn it back over to the lawmakers for some closing remarks and maybe some comments on some capital budget projects. Senator Riccelli, would you like to begin?
Yeah, thanks so much. Just again, thanks for all the folks participating tonight. Appreciate you have a lot of things to be doing, but you're taking time to participate in our democratic process. And, we don't get some sort of cap of knowledge when we're elected. We really rely on the feedback and in the engagement. So thank you so much and look forward to continued discussion. I know we wanted to talk a little bit about capital budget tonight. That's our budget where we invest in community projects from the American Indian Community Center to places like the Corbin Senior Center throughout our time to a whole bunch of great things that are on the list. But we'll save that for another day and for another discussion. I just want to thank you again. It's such an honor to serve this community and do this job, and I'm grateful for the discussion.
Representative Natasha Hill here. I also just want to thank everybody for showing up. This opportunity to engage with you all, for me, especially as a new legislator, is helping to inform me in the process. And I think just overall appreciating, it's a process. We want to hear from you, whether you agree, whether you disagree. Having the discourse is really important. And I think that's how we can demonstrate for other folks ways in which they can get involved and find that thing that, they want to speak to that's impacting them in community. But again, your engagement means everything. So I really appreciate y'all showing up tonight.
Yeah, I want to echo my appreciation to you all. And once again, you did not disappoint because you clearly have deep knowledge, given your questions about what's going on in the community and what's going on in the legislature and sharing your concerns with us. And like my seatmates, I feel very honored to have the privilege of representing the good folks of Spokane. And I also have the great honor of working with these two fine individuals, and we work as a team. And that's not always the case in every legislative district across the state, but we not only work together, we like each other. So that makes it a lot easier.